Welcome to HUMHR Career Insights, the podcast that helps professionals thrive and build meaningful careers in a changing world. We are now on season 4, and I'm your host, Bache Chibafa, founder of HUMHR, a people strategy and career transformation consultancy that helps purpose-driven professionals design meaningful and impactful work lives. This season, we're exploring entrepreneurship as a career choice, not just as a business venture, but as a mindset for ownership, creativity, and impact. Join us and don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, and share.
Many people think that when you're building a brand, it's about the logo, it's about the brand name, it's about the colors, it's about the font color and all these creative elements. No, brands are built from in, so that when you go external and start to put a color and start to put a positioning statement, it resonates with what is inside. Because if your brand is built on authenticity or on service or on whatever attribute, is it speaking to what is external?
Today, I have the honor of speaking with someone I have known for decades. We worked together in our early years at the beginning of our careers. If you have listened to earlier podcasts, you'll remember that I've spoken about my first real job in the corporate world as a graduate trainee. Well, my guest today was one of those graduate trainees who is now a powerhouse in marketing, corporate affairs, and brand strategy. Dennis Mambure. With over 2 decades of experience leading transformational marketing and communications across Africa, he has built a career that seamlessly blends strategic leadership, creativity, and purpose. From his early days at BAT to senior executive roles in the financial sector, he has consistently championed innovation, customer centric thinking, and my favorite, youth empowerment. He has a passion for mentoring youth entrepreneurs and for building African brands that tell authentic stories. Today, we are going to hear his story. Dennis, welcome to HUMHR Career Insights.
Thank you, Bache. It's really a pleasure for me to be on this platform. And let me congratulate you for setting up this, educative, entertaining, and eye-opening podcast. I've really enjoyed the previous seasons and this particular season where we are focusing on entrepreneurship. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dennis. You have had a remarkable corporate career. I mean, with all the graduate trainees that I think there were about 10 of us. I can't remember exactly. I always look at your careers and I'm like, wow, they have really had remarkable careers. So can you walk us through your professional journey, the turning points that shaped your path?
Thanks, Bache. If we reflect on, our careers, definitely, we've started, we started a long time ago. We worked together, but most importantly, I think I was really shaped through my first, real job like yourself at British American Tobacco, where I think we're class of 11, so to speak. We started as 10 and then a friend of ours joined later, That really gave me an insight into corporate business in terms of, a multinational brand the size of BAT. I started in the sales side of things, moved from one subsidiary, as you know. I won't go into details, but found myself, from the leaf side of business into real cigarettes. Went into key accounts management, channel development, management, and I left after, I think about 3 years, went into the fast moving consumer goods. I got, went in as a sales and marketing manager. Just after over a year, I moved into different companies. I also, worked for a parastatal, tel one in the telecommunications. So it gave me a different perspective about business, as well as my interest in technology related businesses. I launched a couple of products in that organization. Then I moved in to join yet another powerful brand, which is Barclays, then, as a marketing manager. And really, that's where I really grew into a proper business executive. I did a number of roles, from product development to channel development, marketing, corporate affairs. And during that time, I also got a bit of exposure traveling across a number of African markets as well as globally. And things happened. I found myself in Botswana. I'm also working for a powerhouse, Absa Bank, Botswana, and I'm a director in charge of marketing and corporate affairs. So that's in brief how I've really moved. And there's some critical turning points that I want to highlight. The most important is the ability to pivot from one industry to the other. It gave me a wider dimension of knowledge, but more importantly, I got an opportunity to meet some great minds. I met some great minds across the breadth and depth of my career movement. I got exposed to a number of countries, cultural nuances, and it really shaped my leadership credency and my career view. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That is an amazing journey. So I know that you have a passion for entrepreneurship. Even though your career has really been in corporate, you do have this passion for entrepreneurship. How has your definition of entrepreneurship changed over the years, if at all? And okay, what do you see as entrepreneurship?
So for me, entrepreneurship is very simple in my understanding. I mean, look, I know you're an academic slash practitioner who really sort of, disaggregated entrepreneurship. But for me, entrepreneurship is that, process of establishing an enterprise from scratch, building it and making it sustainable. For me, that's the simple definition of entrepreneurship. Whether you want to call it a science or an art is neither here nor there. But the fact that somebody is establishing an enterprise and developing it and sustaining it in the long run, that's for me is a mark of entrepreneurship.
Okay, I'm going to jump in there with a question. Have you ever thought of jumping out of the corporate world and going into entrepreneurship?
The thought is there. I have tried. I have failed on a few enterprise, formation. But I think I've also done, pretty well in one or two of those enterprises. But completely leaving my corporate job, that has not crossed my mind as yet. Maybe I'm a risk averse. Maybe I don't have a bone for that. But it's something that has really crossed my mind on a number of occasions. But I've also established one or two things. I don't know whether I call it side hustles, but the fact that I managed to employ a few people, run with it, and, it means that, there is some element of entrepreneurial journey that I did in my.
There's something special. There's about being an entrepreneur, and you have to be willing to take risks. You have to really take a lot of risks, and be willing to fail at it and be able to fail.
Exactly. I mean, look, it takes courage, number one, to admit failure. Number two, to take failure with pride, so to speak. The challenge that I've seen in people that have been in corporate like myself, failure is always frowned, at. We have started from junior school to high school to university, and really probably among the top 10 students. Now, when you get into business and your enterprise fails, it takes a bit of courage to say, look, failure is really not fatal. It's a step to recalibrate and move on. So if there's any lesson that we are going to, drive and derive from that, is that failure is not fatal. You dust yourself, you move on, and you start another thing. Yeah.
So you've led regional marketing, communications across Africa, big brands. What parallels do you see between being a corporate entrepreneur and a traditional entrepreneur? Is there even
I think
such a thing as a corporate entrepreneur? So let's start there.
Interesting perspective. I believe it is. If you start to look at some of the relationships that exist between intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship, you see some parallels. An entrepreneur is somebody who is willing to take risk. I think for me, that's the most fundamental issue. And within the corporate world, we are always in the business of taking risk, especially if you look at financial sector or any other sector for that matter. You need to be somebody who brings something new. So in my professional life, when I was leading products for some organizations, I brought new ideas. I innovated. I brought something completely new, and that's what entrepreneurs are also doing, identifying a need of a customer and then believing that it can be done and delivering on it. So there are quite a number of parallels that will come through. And in fact, I was just doing a bit of my own learning, and I discovered that most of the greatest entrepreneurs, at some point in time, they passed through corporate. They worked for somebody. They learned a few things. They learned how to do things and how not to do things. So yes, there are clear parallels, and we can pick some key learnings from there.
Okay, so training in corporate is also something you can do really to become a good entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Entrepreneurship can lead to entrepreneurship.
Exactly. And I mean, you'll be learning to be an entrepreneur without paying school fees, right? Because all the resources are given. If you make an error, the error is not to your account. So you learn. I mean, you have even within the corporates, products and projects that have failed. But at a personal level, probably what you lose is a promotion or a bonus or something like that. But life goes on. But if you make similar mistakes as an entrepreneur, probably the costs are very high. So we take advantage of that learning environment within organizations. We learn and we see certain things that are brilliant, like, systems, processes, standards, policies, that you learn how to develop those things. When you go into your own business, it's a matter of copying and pasting with pride.
That is true. That is true because I'm just thinking when you were talking there, I was thinking about how I built humor, right? And I was like, had I not had the stints in corporate that I had, would I have put in the processes that I now put in, right? Had I not worked in corporate HR for all those years, I have processes, I have systems,
Mm,
and
mm, mm.
that might not have been the first thing that I did, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about your experience with the biggest challenge that professionals have moving from secure corporate structure into self-driven enterprise environments. We spoke about it just now where you were talking about fear, right? In your mind, though, what has been the biggest challenge for professionals moving?
Two things, uncertainty is a big issue. Security is a big issue. What does a corporate business or a corporate role really brings you? I mean, a corporate role comes with certainty of when you're going to be paid. If you are paid on the 25th and you're working for a proper organization, you know that come rain, come thunder, the 25th you are going to be paid. So security is almost guaranteed. And unfortunately, particularly in this part of the world, there's a lot of spoiling that happens because most of the corporates, you have your salary guaranteed. Probably you've got your medical aid guaranteed. Probably you have got your motor vehicle allowances guaranteed. And when you jump into that thinking, it becomes something that freezes you out of even thinking of jumping into the world of uncertainty, which entrepreneurship comes with. So most people will tell you that they've got brilliant ideas, but they're risk averse because of the uncertainty that entrepreneurship, comes with. As you start your new business, you don't even know whether you're going to get a single customer. So, yeah. So it's a leap of faith that other people, want to call it. But for me, that has been the major risk that I've sort of observed: the fear and the uncertainty that is associated with entrepreneurship. And as a marketing practitioner, of course, one of the things that I always want to share, especially with the young people, is corporate jobs gives us a false thinking that we are as powerful as the brands and the offices that we occupy. So we are busy introducing ourselves as director for this company, executive for this organization, and most doors that are opened are not opened because of the gravitas that we carry at an individual level, but the power of 100-year-old brand that is behind you. For all you know, you're just a quantity carried by a brand. So when you move from that particular corporate world into entrepreneurship, the corporate brand just leaves you by the door. Now it's you, it's your wisdom, it's your brand. Most people fail to build personal brands during their corporate days. Give them 12 months after exiting. Even the people that were picking your call will not pick your call. Why? Because there's nothing that is inbuilt in your own personal brand. And the fear of separation. I know the risk that I'm taking here in terms of some of my friends. You are a human, you're a practitioner in human resources. I want you to take just a quick check on LinkedIn. You see, most
Okay.
people will introduce themselves as, look, I'm Dennis, ex-employee of this, X that, X that. Why? Because they are trying to benefit from the halo effect of a solid brand. If you are still doing that, it means your own personal brand is still weak. And at times when it is subjected to the hardships and the hard hit area of entrepreneurship, it won't stand. So that's the
Wow.
challenge that I see. Yes.
That is a big challenge. So let's talk about personal branding then. If personal branding is synonymous then with success in entrepreneurship, then it's critical to build that personal brand even within the corporate world, right? How can you do that?
No, one of the critical issues in my mind, Bache, is what is your number one? What is your social capital that you build at an individual level? As you create your networks, are you being transactional to say, okay, I'm selling money, I'm selling, cars, I'm selling, and it ends there? Your interaction with people should go beyond in terms, beyond your corporate brand. As you interact, let it go beyond just the transactional. Build relationships that last. That's one of the key issues that you're building that social capital. Number two, it's what lies between your two ears. The gray matter is important. Knowledge. Create that knowledge. It is powerful for you to start building your own sort of, your personal brand. I always talk about 3 E's, Bache. The 3 E's. In my mind, I think I've also heard other people talk about them, and I love that. So, have you built your education? That's the knowledge. Have
Okay.
you built adequate exposure across different sectors, different geographies, and different, industries? Your brand is only as deep as the areas that you have been exposed to. You can't think beyond your exposure. It's impossible. You can't dream bigger. If you remain in one small little geography, one small little industry, one small little company, your personal brand is limited. You need to go beyond that. And number three, your experience. Your experience should never be a repetition of a single year. Your experience should be real experience, learning new things on the go and developing experience. Once you do that, people know that this person is educated. In other words, has got information. This people has got the adequate exposure, and this person has experience. Your brand equity tends to increase.
I like that. Education, 3 E's: education, exposure, and experience. So yeah, you can't think beyond your exposure. You you
You
you
can't think
you
beyond the
can't.
exposure.
Yeah, because you don't know what is possible, right? You don't know what
Yeah,
is possible.
exactly. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah, you
Mm.
don't know what you don't know. If you we cannot even explain it any further. You cannot dream beyond your exposure. Your exposure is the ingredient of your dreams. As simple as that.
And then the experience. I have a question on the experience, putting on my HR hat. In terms of experience, you said you shouldn't have a repetition of a single year. And you know how recruiters, when they recruit, they like to see those years of experience, the years in one job, the years in one organization. Now, how can you not repeat a year when you are in the same job, in the same organization?
That's for me is something that we need to sit down with HR and say, guys, this whole idea of looking at experience needs to be relooked. But more importantly, Bache, so number one, I might be in the same job, but what are the projects that I am taking in that particular job? In every organization, there are cross functional projects that can come through. I'm a marketing practitioner, but I tell you, when I sit on the table with other executives, probably I spend less than 20 minutes talking about marketing. I talk business. When I'm on the table, I'm not a marketing practitioner. I'm a business executive. And how do I become a business executive? I have to understand what happens in other areas of the business. So cross-cultural functions, assignments and projects becomes important. Number two, how do you learn new things over, during your career? Careers are changing. I will tell you something for a fact. When I started my marketing at BAT, there was no AI, right? There was no, these things that we are seeing. But I keep on improving on what I know, because I know some of the people that I'm managing now have degrees in digital marketing, which was not a thing when I went to university many, 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 many years ago. So I have to keep myself refreshed. And the key thing is unlearn, relearn, and continuously learn. That's how your experience changes from being a repetition of a single year.
Yeah, that's so key. That's so key to success. Unlearning the things that we are just so stuck to, because there's AI now, right? And I know you and I were having a conversation the other day about how there's this adverse reaction to AI, and educators are saying, don't use AI in the workplace. Can you
Mm,
believe
mm,
it? I
mm, mm.
have heard of people being fired for using AI. And I'm like, this is going nowhere because
It's
AI is
crazy.
not going anywhere.
I-
Soon they'll
if
fire
any,
everybody.
exactly, if anything, AI is starting really. So we need to embrace it. The key learning that we should be picking from what we are seeing outside is, don't go into AI blindly. Learn how to use it, make it something that complements your knowledge, your skill, your craft. The problem is where you want it to replace yourself, then that's where you get fired. But if you use it as a tool that
Yes.
can enhance your work, then let it be so. Unfortunately, because of the democratization of AI and access to technology, people are jumping into it without necessarily learning. It's just like giving your child or somebody else car keys without learning how to drive and the rules on the road. It's fatal, right? So somebody just goes in, downloads one type of AI and the other, and then goes in and start working with that. It's dangerous. We need to spend time teaching our people, exposing them to how it is done. What are the certain prompts that you do? I mean, I see that in my line of work. As a communicator, you go on to a conference and everybody's reading a page or a paper, and you can tell that it's exactly the same. But
Wow.
as a brand builder, and I think it's also important to entrepreneurs, as a brand builder, every brand needs to have its own tone of voice, right? Even if you are going to be using AI, build in your unique tone of voice so that when you speak at a conference, when you do a communication, a promotional communication or a marketing communication, we are able to tell that is a humor brand, that is a X brand, that is B brand. And AI can help you do that, but you need to set the guardrails properly. So teaching becomes very, very important, Bache. I think that's one of the things that we need to teach our entrepreneurs.
AI for entrepreneurs. That's a good title for a course or a workshop.
Maybe we can collaborate and have a good course around that.
Yeah. Dennis, you are passionate about youth entrepreneurship and financial literacy. From your perspective, what are the key barriers facing young entrepreneurs in Africa today?
And let me just start by saying, where did that sort of passion come from? And what then I'll address the barriers. As you know, I learned marketing from university, but at some point in time, when I got another job as within my Barclays days, as head of corporate affairs, I found myself deep in public policy, and I had to go to school, for a master's in public policy and governance. And the area that I really loved was financial inclusion. So that became my area of academic pursuance. And in doing that, I then started to pick a few things. Number one, in my mind, financial literacy is a key issue that is impeding our youth from getting into business. There is no shortcut in business. And one of the impediments, I think I agree to, people who tell us that capital is actually not the number one impediment to entrepreneurship, but knowledge of what to do. So somebody gets money as capital, they don't know what to do with it. They cannot read a balance sheet. They cannot manage their cash flow. They cannot know the difference between a revenue, profit, and the like. So financial literacy, in my mind, is a big impediment. I mean, if you look at some of the failures that we see among new businesses or new startups, partly it's to do with a lack of understanding of how to manage one's finances. So if you have that knowledge of financial literacy, then I think we have done a good job of removing the first, in my mind, impediment to entrepreneurship. And I think most of our youths are found in that sort of corner where their understanding of money is impeding their growth.
Yeah, we are not really taught financial literacy during our growing up years and our education years. I was speaking about it in, I think it was 2 episodes ago. I now have episodes where I just, talk about what has inspired me from my guests or my key takeaways. And one of the things that I mentioned is that financial literacy being so key. We were not taught about it, but I know now, having young kids, they are being taught about financial literacy. And I tend to agree with that it is important to have those skills. This episode is brought to you by HUMHR, the boutique career and leadership consultancy helping professionals get clear, get confident, and get hired. From CV writing and Clifton Strengths coaching to interview prep and leadership development, HUMHR is here to help you take the next step in your career. Visit humhr.org to learn more. www.humhr.org. I just remembered that you wrote a book.
Yes.
Tell us
Yes, I
about your
did.
book.
So I wrote a book, which was co-authored with my wife, and the title of the book is engaging in responsible behavior, a financial perspective. Engaging in responsible behavior, a financial perspective. So essentially, what we're trying to convey is that money and how one interacts with money is actually a behavior that one should sort of embed in their day-to-day activities. How do you budget? How do you generate money? How do you make sure that you are not impulsive in your day-to-day activity? How do you build your wealth? How do you ensure that you protect it? So it really covers a wide range of subjects. As long as one is living, one has to know how to react and how to behave with and around money.
Yeah. Behavior around money. That is so true. You get money to spend it, or you get money to invest it, or you get money to impact with it. Yeah. How you behave to the money. I need to get that book.
Exactly. No, that's important. You have to get it. It's on Amazon. You can get a copy. But more importantly for me, and my spouse, when we wrote that book, we really just wanted to impact the people, particularly on the African continent, to say money is something that is just meant to, transform the way we live, not to make us crazy. And I always tell my mentees that if you are not careful with your behavior, the moment you get a bit of money, you feel that pressure to spend it. All of a sudden, you think of buying a new gadget, a new dress, a new something. And as long as that pressure begins to rise, the moment you get money, it means your behavior and your relationship with money is toxic.
Yes, yes. I think these are the things that we don't dwell on. We don't spend time on them. We don't spend time thinking through them and really determining the importance of, like, when I have money, how should I behave with it? How should I behave towards it? Should it? There's so many things out here, right? Money either changes a person or it doesn't change a person. Rather, money reveals who you are, right? It doesn't change you; it reveals who you are. And then I'm not sure if you listened to my conversation with Professor Strickland a couple of weeks back. And he was talking about how there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. And that when you are wealthy, wealth is giving away your money.
Yes, yes,
So
yes, yes.
that
Powerful.
relationship, yeah, it's powerful. That relationship with money is something that really, as entrepreneurs, need to get a handle on. Because we all know that when you're an entrepreneur with money, sometimes it comes in loads. And
Yes,
there's
that's
times
true.
when, yeah, and then there's
When
times
nothing
when
is
it's
coming.
not there.
Now that's important, and one of the things that I've picked over my experience really is around living within our means, and it's more important, especially at an entrepreneur level. Are you able to live within your means? What do you make? What decision do you make when you get your first order and the first check drops into your account? Do you continue living within your means? Or that's the moment that you think, now I'm a businessman, let me buy a new vehicle, let me move to a bigger office. So living within your means becomes critical for the success of some of these businesses that we see starting on the African continent.
Yeah, yeah. Going ahead talking about, like, youth entrepreneurship, I just digressed about the book and then, we started talking about money, but I want us to go back to talking about that youth entrepreneurship and the access to capital. How can financial institutions play a stronger role in enabling youth led business ecosystems? Do you see, in fact, do you see financial institutions playing a role at the moment? And if not, what's the gap and how can they fill that gap?
I think financial institutions, by and large, are playing a fantastic role in that, building a proper ecosystem. And there are a few sort of rails that needs to be put in place for us to understand the roles that each and every one of the players has to play. So number one, obviously, like you indicate, is the access to capital. But one of the things that I always say is that financial institutions do not own the money that they give out to entrepreneurs. This is depositors' funds. They are kept in trust, uh, and it has to be understood that only businesses that make sense will get the attention of funders. That's a critical role, right? And these are two businesses. The financial institution is a business. The guy who is starting up is also a business. So these are two businesses, and the business of business is profitability and making money. Of course, there is how we impact the society and the community and everything else. So it is critically important that financial institutions make it clear to the young entrepreneurs what a winning business case looks like. This is capacity building. They need to give proper capacity building support to the youth, to tell them that, look, I think one of the things that can be frustrating is, as a youth, you go to a bank or to a financial institution, you think you've got a brilliant plan, and it's turned down, and you don't understand why it has been turned down. So the first role of financial institution is to build the capacity to understand what a winning project looks like. Number two is also to walk the journey with the youth, to say, okay, fine, your business is 100,000. How do we protect that 100,000? You need to give in the support structure to walk with the prospective business person. It's not enough to just give a loan. It's not enough to just provide the capital. It is important to walk with the particular individual and support him. Then finally, obviously, the issuance of money is important. And on the other side, the youth themselves, they shouldn't be taking chances. They need to understand that once you are a business person, you need to believe that you are a business person and therefore behave like one. How do you behave like one? Make sure your finances are recorded. Make sure your financials are audited. Make sure that you have got a proper business that can be seen, that can be visited, that can be checked, that can be, found at any given point in time, and making sure that all the regulatory processes are followed. Are you paying your tax? Are you paying your licenses? And all these things. So it's an ecosystem, like you say. And of course, then there's a third player, which is the government, in terms of creating enable policies for success. Government and policymakers have to ensure that there is that support structure, that enabling environment for entrepreneurship to succeed.
I like telling stories and I like hearing stories. What role, you spoke about capacity building, what role does storytelling have in capacity building and brand building?
No, no, I don't know what kind of time you have because once you start talking about storytelling, you really get me moving. As a brand builder myself, storytelling is the most important thing. You want to build a narrative, all right? Storytelling should also be punctuated with consistent messaging. How are you constructing your business story as an entrepreneur? Because that's actually the genesis of building a lasting brand. Consistent messages that are constructed properly and authenticity in that story. So for me, I think if there's anything that is important, it's storytelling. It creates brand, it destroys brand. It destroys your opportunity to get funding. If your story cannot hold and anyone can poke holes into any story, then you're in trouble. Storytelling is very critical. We cannot overemphasize that.
Having built and managed powerful brands, what would you say are the core elements of a successful African brand today?
Yeah, so that's really an interesting perspective to take our conversations to. Let me start by saying Africa is not monolithic. It's not a country, right? It is a continent with 54 countries. But there's something that joins us together. So as you are building a purely powerful African brand, there are a number of things or core elements that one has to sort of build into it. But the first one in my mind is authenticity. As an African people, whether on the African continent or in the diaspora, one thing that binds us together is something that we call authenticity. Are we authentic in what we do? I mean, from a philosophical point of view, people talk about Ubuntu or Boto and the like. But really, if you look at it closely, it talks about authenticity, particularly authenticity of your identity. How can somebody tell that this is an African brand, not a replica of any other continent? What are the things that symbolizes the Africanness in us? I think for me, as you build your brand and you want it to be rooted in Africa, the identity should have that authenticity. And this speaks to those that are building brands associated with tangible products or intangibles. If you are, a restaurant, if you are, in hospitality, or you are manufacturing cars, what are the elements in there that I will be able to pick and say that's Africa, right? So authenticity is critical. Number two, purpose, right? Brand purpose beyond profit. The things that are important to us as Africans. We are a youthful continent, very youthful. We are looking at the developmental agenda. We are looking at how do we ensure that, women and the girl child have got a stronger role to play in our businesses. So we need to infuse an indisputable sort of or undisputable sort of purpose in that brand building matrix. So our purpose has to talk about African nuances. Am I sensitive to the challenges that are seen on the African continent? When I'm building my brand, am I supporting the youth? Am I supporting the women? Am I supporting those that are in other places that are ravaged by all sorts of societal issues? So that brand that you are building on the continent should be a purpose-driven brand. And of course, the resonance with culture, it has to resonate with a culture. When you talk about cultural resonance, we are very clear that we've got different cultures and subcultures. But if I'm building my brand, it has to resonate with the culture of the market that I'm targeting. And of course, scalability becomes key. Every brand should have the ability to be scalable beyond the borders of one country. If I am going to be starting in Gaborone and going into Harare, then Nairobi and Nigeria, am I able to scale that brand? Does it have that scalability? So it becomes critical. And finally, the key element for me really is, are you able to build your brand inside out? Start from the inside and then go outside. What does it mean? Many people think that when you're building a brand, it's about the logo, it's about the brand name, it's about the colors, it's about the font color and all these creative elements. No, brands are built from inside, so that when you go external and start to put a color and start to put a positioning statement, it resonates with what is inside. Because if your brand is built on authenticity or on service or on whatever attribute, is it speaking to what is external? I find my people who are building new enterprises, they are so much focused on building a fantastic logo, a logo that looks brilliant, and nice words. You go into their offices, they've got a list of values, vision, missions. But when you go inside, there's a disconnect. What is on the outside and what is on the inside are not talking. So African brands need to be built from inside, from the authenticity of the African sun. You get me when you start to, I'm very passionate about building brands. Yeah, so I think for me, that's what I could say. I mean, I could go on and on, but for me, those are the critical elements.
Yeah, that marriage, isn't it, between storytelling and brand building and all that being consistent, the thread that puts everything together being consistency and the values
Mm,
that you
mm,
display in your
mm.
storytelling and in your brand building. Yeah, the inside cannot, the culture being the inside can definitely not be different from the outside, because then you're not really building a brand.
Exactly. And if we are to simplify this, ensure that the image that you portray is aligned to the reputation that you are building. We don't want a disconnect between what you are trying to portray as an image and the reputation. And reputation is not for you to say, is what people experience about your brand. If you make an effort to say, we're a great service provider, you have failed before you start. People should say, this is a great service provider, and you build your reputation on that. The image is fantastic, and the brand equity and health becomes something that can bring money, and you can commercialize on that.
You know, when you're talking about the reputation, what I find, like 90%, 90% of my clients, 90% of the people that I work with, 90% of the people that reach out to me have been referred by someone. I don't
That's
advertise, I hardly advertise, you know?
And that's powerful, right? You actually see that as you go in terms of the most valuable companies on the continent, you find out that there's a reduction in their budget when it comes to advertising versus the effort that they build in ensuring that the reputation, speaks for itself. We can mention a lot of other brands that probably you never see their adverts. And when they're advertising, they advertise at a brand level, right? And this is one of the things that I always want to share with entrepreneurs. Never build a brand on the basis of promoting your own products, because your product can be replicated, right? But build on the basis of your corporate brand so that people associate your brand with, excellency, with delivery, and whatever, thing that they can associate with. Because just imagine if you're selling fried chicken, and
Yeah.
you put an advert around fried chicken, no one will remember it. But if you say, my company is called XYZ, and that's what sticks into people's mind, then they'll come and buy for you. So we need to spend more time in brand building. And then the brand will then call in the customers, and people will start talking about your own products, because products are so many, they can be replicated. That's why, I mean, if you look at it, Apple as a brand that we can look at, what is at the top of people's mind? It's Apple products, right? To the extent that when they launch a new phone, a new iPhone or whatever, people don't care. I mean, look at what they do when the people run and queue on the day of the launch. Why? The Apple brand has been created in such a powerful way that people know that without even buying that, any product coming out of there is a strong product. So spend time investing in brand building, and then underneath that, you then have your products. Your products become what we call proof points. So if we were to build a hierarchy, you've got your brand, which is powerful, and beneath that are the proof points. What are the proof points? These are the products, these are the services that just validate the power that is already inbuilt in the brand.
Funny story. When you were telling me this, I remembered. So it must be about maybe a month ago. I HUMHR sponsored the netball team for an association and a committee, and there were games, local games, like committee games, community games, and we sponsored the netball team. And my friend sent me a message. I happened to not be at those games. And she sent me a message. She was like, your brand is branding.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And but yeah, I also have a story. So there's a brand at a personal level that I've built and I'm still building. And at my son's school, I mean, he's moved from that school. They were having a cricket, and their coach approached me to say, "Look, we want to get some support." So I did something for them, and I stuck my brand on their jerseys.
Yes.
Um, and I can tell you after that, my son was saying, "No, Dad, people were asking where the offices are, and nobody asked me about what I do in that. They just wanted to see this brand, which is actually sponsoring a cricket team for a school. What is it all about?" And goodwill starts to build over that. So for me, I think it's a powerful lesson that we need to look at. Just imagine if you have 5 products that you are launching into the market as as an entrepreneur, and you want to market all those 5 products. The budget that you need to build enough memory structure for those 5 brands is 5 times what you would have done if you just built a war chest for your corporate brand. And then people then start to understand more about the proof points, which are the brands, which are the
Yeah.
products, sorry. Yeah.
That those are some powerful lessons in the little things, isn't it? The little things
And
that just giving, right? Yeah, you building a reputation, building a name, the goodwill, and it's actually not a lot that you have, overextended.
yeah, and one of the things that I think is important is for people to understand that no matter what business you are doing, we are in the business of people. That's my mantra. Every business, as long as there is a human as your customer, we are in the business of people. And people are never moved by products. People are moved by
Yes.
passion, by emotions, by how you make them feel, by the level that a brand can address their needs. So if kids are going on a school camp and you sponsor them, if women are doing something and as a brand you come through, it means you have touched what matters to them. So if you understand that we are in people business, and you position your brand as a people oriented brand, you have done part of your job, a significant part
So
of your job.
so I've got a t-shirt. I've got a t-shirt here. Passion, purpose, people.
Wow. Passion.
Purpose,
Go.
passion, purpose, people.
Wow, that's powerful. And just to tease you there, I had put on my notes something, I don't know why I was putting it. I'd said people, process, and passion.
Wow. See, there you go.
So, yeah, no, purpose is very, very important. Purpose is very important. Yeah.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time, like in my coaching programs, we spend a lot of time talking about, purpose. And just on that issue of passion, as an entrepreneur, do you believe I've been having this conversation? This season is entrepreneurship, right? So this is a question that I ask my guests on passion. So does passion fuel the business, or do you believe that it's not necessary? Will the money follow the passion, or should you seek money and then passion will come into it?
So, in my mind, passion is the motivation that gets you started, but it doesn't sustain a business, right? What sustains your business is your ability to continuously meet customer needs. As customer needs shift, are you able to pivot? Because if your passion was built on a product, and for some reason that product either comes out of fashion or something happens, what then happens? You are left with an enterprise that you cannot run. So if my passion is, I mean, about voice, for example, if I'm in telecoms, and we know what is happening to voice now, people are in data. Now from data, there's other things that are coming, AI and the like. So if MTN's passion was to make sure that everybody is able to talk on a mobile phone. Today, probably their business will be struggling. Why? Because the passion was just on a product. But passion should be on a broader thing that can be, sustained in the long run. So I would assume that those guys in telecoms, probably their passion is connectivity, and whatever form it comes, they can be able to scale. So passion is good as an engine to start, but you cannot sustain a business on the basis of passion. Businesses are sustained on the existence of customer needs that you are able to fulfill regardless of the changes that happen.
Okay, that's the startup coach as well. The startup coach, Dennis Mangami. Yeah, come to think of it, you both have the same first name. But I had a conversation with the startup coach, and he was talking about passion, that passion fuels the business, right? But he also spoke about the customer. Your customer is a stethoscope, and you have to find the passion for the business is the customer. So thank you for that. Now we are coming to the end of our time, and I have I've got a couple of questions that I have for you just to close our time together. And one of them is on legacy. You know, when you think about legacy as a leader and a mentor, what do you hope to leave behind for the next generation of entrepreneurs, of African entrepreneurs?
For me, I think I would want to, it's really a frightening question, Abache, because once somebody says, "What do you want to leave?" Probably you are saying, "As I exit this world," But look,
No, legacy. Okay, what legacy do you want to leave?
and no, seriously though, I think I would want to leave a legacy of impact. I should have transformed one more life. When people think about me, I think I want people to say, "This man came into my life, impacted me in a positive way." That's why I spend a bit of time talking to people, mentoring youth, just paying it forward, so to speak. I want to have impacted lives. That's my passion, so to speak, and the legacy that I want to leave behind wherever I'll be going.
So if you could give your 25-year-old self, in fact, let's not say 25, if you could give one piece of advice to the Dennis that was at BAT about career and entrepreneurship, what would that be?
Start early. Yeah, start early. Because you see, when you start early, you have got a whole life ahead of you to make mistake, correct, and start again. I'm told, I know there's no age in terms of where you can start your journey as an entrepreneur. I know that. I know people who started in their 67s and they succeeded. But the danger with that, if you fail at that age, chances of restarting are very, very high. So if I were to go back to my days at BAT, instead of enjoying my life and, I would have started an enterprise, or at least the process of doing that, because you have got no family, you have got no big bills to deal with, and your failures can be viewed as youthful exuberance, and the world may
Yeah.
be a little bit more forgiving. At our ages, if we start these enterprises and we fail, we have to answer to our spouses, we have to answer to our children, some of them who are asking difficult questions. We've got more to lose. So start early.
That is a real thing, starting early. My conversation with Professor Strickland, he has this lecture that he gives. That's what he's well known for, how to make $5 million. And here's the you have to start early. You have to start at 21. That's it. When you leave university, that's when you have to start. And it's just saving. It's a simple thing. You leave college and you have to start saving. You have to we talked about it earlier, living within your means, right?
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
And
actually, yeah.
it's so powerful, eh? It's so powerful. I mean, at some point in time, years back, I had a conversation with my kids, and I said, "Okay, fine, I'm going to start something," and we were just calling it for fun. pizza principle, right? It's not a principle, so to speak, but we just had to find a name. And what that meant for me was every time I buy fast food, whether it's pizza or whatever, I would put an equivalent amount of money aside and buy some stock on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, because there were penny stocks, and they had a system, I think, where you could do it. They call it ZSC Direct. Because you could buy it a minimum 100 shares, and after a while I'd accumulated so much shares with that, because I go out with the entire family. You spend $100 and you could buy some penny stocks and some little stocks here and there. I was just trying to teach them that, look, you don't need to have $1 million to go on the stock market. You can do it with as little as
Yes.
$20, and you buy
Yes.
that. And I would, from time to time, I could sell those things, tell them that in this particular transaction I've made a loss because the price is moved. In this particular instance, I've come through, I've gotten a bit of money. When there's a company that is doing an initial, what do you call it, a IPO, you go in,
Yeah.
you participate, you buy a few things, and that's starting early. So you need to find something. That's why, I mean, Dr. Mangami was saying, capital is not an issue. You can start as little as possible and start to build a war chest that you can invest in something bigger and meaningful.
Dennis, quick questions for you before we leave. Coffee or tea during strategy sessions?
If I'm bored, coffee. If I'm enjoying myself, tea.
Okay, for
But tea,
me,
if you want,
always tea.
yes.
Always
Okay.
tea for me. Yeah,
All
okay.
right.
One book or quote that changed how you view leadership.
So it's actually a book. It's called The Barefoot Coach by Paddington Upton. Um, he was a cricket coach. He even coached the India national team and the like. So that book, you know, taught me the transferability of skills from one area to the other. And as a leader, you should not shy away from trying new industries, new businesses. Your skills are transferable. You can even become so powerful. And I would recommend that book to anyone who really wants to learn something about leadership, learning from the sports people, sports coaches, and how successful they took the Indian team coming out of South Africa, really. Yeah, that's one of the books that I really, really love.
Okay, last one. If entrepreneurship were a song, what would be its title?
Wow, that's interesting. So if it was a song, probably it would be, I'll borrow from Bob Marley. There's a song that says, get up, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. I think you know that. If you have to go into entrepreneurship, you gotta start. Get up, stand up for your rights, stand up for what you believe is right. Start. There's a market out there. There's a need to be fulfilled. So that would be the song, really.
Dennis, thank you for your time. I am grateful for you coming on HUMHR Career Insights. And yeah, it's been how many decades we've known each other? And
2.5
yeah,
decades. 2.5 decades. Yeah.
2.5 decades.
From
And
October 2000 to
wow,
today.
you have a memory. You have a memory, a good
Of an
memory
elephant,
still.
I can tell you.
No, I appreciate you giving me this time, giving our listeners this time to just share your wisdom and give us some of your tips and your stories. Hey, so thank you. And to our listeners, until next time, stay inspired.
Welcome.